Bonjour, peeps. Hi, this is Neshi. Welcome to Star Nation's organization's main fan page, to the daily card draw information, the energy that's important for us to know today. And it's a live stream. Yay. Like doing these. Um, yeah, today is Tuesday, September 11th. September 11th. Yeah. So many of us have memories about that day 17 years ago, don't we? It's one of those dates in history that we remember where we were, what we were doing, who we were talking to, um, that kind of stuff, September 11th. And so there's still many, many people all across the world that pray for the survivors of 9/11 and pray for the souls of those who died in 9/11. Um, yeah, and so we should, right? We should remember them. Yeah. Hi, Elise. I just saw your text message about am I doing a non-show this morning? Yes, I am. Hey, Nellie. I loved your show. Oh my goodness. I didn't want to have to cut out so soon, but I had to go help Mom with a couple of things to get ready for this live stream. And so I loved it. I loved the storytelling, the story of Taliesin. And you know what? I really like hearing about the Perseuli blue stone, the crystal. Yeah, that stone that's indigenous to Britain, right? And yeah, I loved it. And I'm glad you're going to be doing more stories next month. Yay. And Mary Anderson Fry's with us. And so is Jolene Butler. Good morning, ladies. And yes, Elise, George is down at the house with Paul. They're working on some stuff. They're doing, they're called puppy push-ups, right? You have them lay down, you give them a treat. You have them sit up, it's a push-up, and they get a treat. And so they're doing some training this morning. He was a little terror this morning. I brought him downstairs with me around 6, and I guess it was closer to 6:30. And he was around. We went outside, and he was fine. Did that, came in to eat, and then he went back to sleep. When he got up the second time, oh my gosh, it was a little terror, and he was running around. I think he was trying to expend some of that extra energy, and all of a sudden he just kind of collapsed, and he's been sleeping since. Yeah. Good morning. Let's see. Good morning, Polly Joe. Good morning. And let's see, Lisa's saying, check out the writer Marion Zimmer Bradley. Okay, that's the author of Mists of Avalon, right? Zimmer Bradley. Read the series. The Avalon, forget the titles of the books. The Mists of Avalon, I used to read almost every year in November. Why? It was hunting season. I was, I didn't go out with the guys, and I would be home and making sure, that we had a good supper, that kind of thing, and kind of taking it easy, sorta, and so I would grab a book, and a big thick book, so that I could read. Through the hunting season, right? And so I read Mists of Avalon, and I'm scrolling through. I've read Mists of Avalon, Lady of Avalon, The Forest House, and The Priestess of Avalon. So I've read the series, and I have to tell you, it's really good. I might go back and reread them now. You never know, right? When a good series is, even though you've read them before. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, September 11th. September 11th. September 11th, I remember way back when, 17 years ago, we were living down near Madison at the time, and for about a week to 10 days or so, I thought it was, a dream at first, and it wasn't. It started out in dream time, where I felt like I was underneath rubble, concrete, stone, And it was, I could feel them. I could feel them, and I could feel the weight of them, but disoriented in which way's up, right? And remember feeling a sense of panic, waking myself up. I didn't know what that was all about. And then every night for 7 to 10 days, I can't remember exactly which. It seemed like a really long time. I didn't. Then it progressed to not even being asleep. I would be just falling asleep. That in between state, right? And I'd get the same feeling, the same imagery, and that same disoriented feeling. And it got to that point where I wasn't even in between. I would just be getting into bed, and you're just getting comfortable. Just close the eyes. You're not in between, and I would have the same sensations. And then it started happening during waking hours. Wasn't even in bed. I'd be doing dishes or driving to work. That was kind of scary. Driving to work and having that sensation of being buried under concrete rubble and not being able to sense, which way was up. And I was at work. It was 9/11. I was working for the state of Wisconsin at the time. It's a policy program planner. And I was in my cubicle, and I had to go talk to a colleague of mine. We were working on a project together. And it was relatively early morning. I don't even remember exactly what time it was. But I was sitting in her cubicle, and we're going over a checklist. And our receptionist came because Linda's cubicle was just down the row from the receptionist. And she came, and she was, visibly upset. She says, something's wrong in New York. There's a plane that crashed in New York. And I said, really? Near which airport? And she goes, not near the airport. It hit a building. I said, hit a building? Yeah, one of the big buildings. It flew right into the building. And she said, and we could hear it because she had turned up her radio, and it was saying that a second plane had hit. And I looked at my colleague Linda, and I said, that feels like terrorism, doesn't it? It's a terrorist attack? I don't know. And so, what's the chances of two planes crashing into the buildings, the Twin Towers? We all know how that played out, right? But at work, my little cubicle, because I had an altar set up in there, and I used to space clear my cubicle pretty much on a regular basis, maybe once a quarter or something like that. And at one point, it was just before lunch. At one point, I had I think it was 8 or 9 people in my little cubicle. And I don't know whose bright idea it was, but somebody brought in a television into the conference room, and so that we could see it. And and that was they play it over and over and over again, right? And so there was a lot of panic. There was a lot of anxiety. Here we are in a state building, and then there's the people were saying, well, what happens if they start attacking all government buildings? And I said, wait a minute, wait, it's horrible what's happening, but let's try to stay in the present moment here, right? And so we were talking about our feelings, and people were crying, and they'd come into my cubicle, and they said they felt safe in my cubicle. Yeah. So being an empath, I had reached my max. It was just before lunch, and I asked everybody if they could just please step out. I was going to go and get a sandwich, and I'd be back, but I needed a break. And by the time I got back, some people had actually gone home, had taken a half day and gone home. But that's where I was at 9/11. Yeah. And I have to say that night, that day, that afternoon, I never had that sensation of the rubble covering me or seeing it when I fell asleep. And the next morning on September 12th, I realized that what I was feeling and seeing was a sensation of what was going to happen to some of those people in those buildings. And I didn't put two and two together. I didn't ask either, my spiritual team. Yeah. I'm just checking the chat room. And yeah, yes, Elise, the stories, the Miss of Avalon series definitely matches, relates to the story that Mervyn told us this morning. Hey, Nathan Gold, good morning. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Nathan, I am going to talk about a card that was drawn this morning. We don't do individual card draws on this particular live stream. This is one card that helps us understand the energy that's important for us to know today. And then we talk about that, we chat about it. If you'd like to do a card draw through Star Nation's live stream shows, we will be doing that through Polly Joe's show actually on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's called Soul Connections. Soul Connections. And if you want, you can go to her fan page, which is Chakra Sessions, and like it, and then get the notifications. Okay. And she does individual card draws, and I don't want to call it a mini reading, but she does connect with you, and to be able to do that. And I think Polly Joe is here. Polly Joe, could you put your fan page link in the comments for Nathan, and maybe during your show on Wednesday night, you'll be able to pull a card for him. Okay, thanks. And Christine Sistars here. Good morning. And Mary Summers is here. Good morning. Polly Joe says, I live 3 hours away from New York City. Yeah, that energy there. And one of the planes went down. Where was that? I should know this. I can't remember the name of the little town. It was just north of the city that went down. They did a movie on it, right? That's where the term or the saying "let's roll" came from, because one of the passengers, they confronted the terrorists on the plane. Yeah, it's one of those times in history that you remember. And it doesn't take you long to recall those memories. Thank you, Polly Joe. Yes, Pennsylvania. To take one of those times that we're together, like when Kennedy was shot, right? A lot of people remember where they were when that happened. I was just a mere child. I was a very young child when that happened, but I do remember watching the funeral on television. Yeah, that was I was 63, so I was 60, 61, 62. I was 4 years old, something like that. And I'm going to do a little something here for Nathan. Hang on just a second. And I'm going to put that in there for Nathan. There you go, Nathan. That is the link. Trying to make it easy for you. So anyway, so the energy is a kind of, it's different. It's different this morning, only because of those memories. And and from the time I got up, we're helping Mom with stuff. I read to her the headlines, of things that are in the news every morning, and of course that was mentioned on September 11th, and with her television on, it's all they're going to be talking about all day. The card draw this morning. It's very interesting because of what I just shared about the sensing of being buried under the rubble, right? And being disoriented. There was so much I couldn't tell, couldn't sense which direction was up or down. And it was like dark, pitch black. And so completely disoriented feeling, right? And like I said, it went on for days until the actual event happened. But this is the card that came this morning. It says, my intuitive senses are opening more and more each and every day. Right? In the back side, it says, trust your intuitive wisdom. If your mind is closed, how can you learn anything new? All right. Back 17 years ago, when having that sensation of being buried under concrete rubble, don't know why. I don't know why I didn't ask for more information, but I didn't, and it kept happening night after night, to the point where it was kind of, I really didn't even want to go to sleep after a while because I knew what was going to happen. But I didn't ask. Now, why didn't I ask? And when I reflect back on that time, it's like it would have been so easy just to connect with my spiritual team and ask, what's going on? Why are you showing me this? Why are you showing me this? And I realized that I really didn't want to know. I knew that it was something more than in what was happening in my own life, right? And but I could have asked, and I could have found out more information. What would I have done with the information? I don't know. But it was happening 10 days before. So one of the things that I learned from that is even though I want to put my blinders on and just see what's in front of me, right? Is that as our intuition grows, as we trust our intuition, trust ourselves with information coming from spirit, asking for more information is a good thing, because reflecting back on that, I could have asked and I didn't. Should have. In hindsight, I should have. What I'm doing right now is I'm liking and I'm sharing the live stream. I forgot to do that. So if you wouldn't mind, if you would please, help us out, is to like and share the broadcast. And the reason why we do this is so that we end up in the news feed more often, and people who are searching for spiritual information, conversations, that they can find us easier, right? And so what I'm going to do is I am going to send it to my timeline, my news feed, and just let everybody know, my friends know that I'm live streaming, and to please join. Please. Oops. I don't know why that happens. I guess my fingers are faster than the quick keys. There we go. I'm going to post that, and then I'm going to share it over to the closed group for Star Nations Radio Network, and we'll get that sent over to them, just to let them know that I'm live streaming, and to please join me. There we go. I always forget to do this part on this morning live stream. I don't know why. I get talking and I forget. Okay, there we go. So, trusting your own intuition, right? And the more the more we heal our emotional body and our mental body, we start removing the interference, the debris, right? And so we're able to sense, feel, hear, see um, much more often and more clearer. And so when we do that, our intuition grows. We when we look back at when we first started consciously down our spiritual path, um, we can see we can actually see how much we've grown. There were times when now I grew up with this, right, in a Native American home, a more traditional home, meaning that learning how to give tobacco at an early age, knowing that there's spirit, knowing that we're connected to everything in nature. Um, Growing up with that as part of my belief system, right? It wasn't something I necessarily had to learn. I was already immersed in it. Um, but even given that, when it comes to intuition, um, is kind of holding back a bit, right? Is not really sharing because one, what if you're wrong, right? And what if they don't believe me? Those two things. And so as we grow and as we heal those parts of ourselves, our intuition gets clearer. And even though we might hang back a bit to see how it plays out, and when we realize that, oh my gosh, I saw that 10 days ago. I heard that last night kind of stuff, or that dream I had a month ago, it's playing out. Or we start seeing the deja vu stuff. Like, I've already done this already. I remember doing this. Why do I remember doing this already? Yeah. When we start trusting our own intuition more and more, and to the point where um, it's like breathing. It is a part of you, and so and not treating it like it's separate from yourself, right? Yeah, that's what I got from this. When Dr. Brian Weiss states, my intuitive senses are opening more and more each and every day. Yeah. And did you know? I'm going to look this up again because I want to make sure I give you the resource for it. And it was actually coming from Young Living Oils. I remember sitting in a demonstration of the oils, and the lady was saying that they have this technique. It's actually a software that they use, and you put your hand on it, right, and it reads your body and makes suggestions of the different oils that could possibly help you. And when they were introducing this service, in their information, they state that we receive 150,000 bits of information per second. Per second. 150,000. That's a lot. And that's just on a daily basis, right? That's just in your normal life. If you put on top of that travel, if you're in an airport or a train station, if you're in a tourist area and you're taking in the sights, literally, you're increasing that number. And so it's no wonder why when we travel to different destinations, that we get tired, we're fatigued, it's because our sensory is on overload. It's on overload. And so when we've healed those aspects of ourselves, the emotional and mental bodies, right? from the trauma just by living, and clearing away the interference and the debris, the barriers, to the use of our intuition, our gifts, is that we're taking in the same amount of information, but we're taking it in a more, it's a good word. It's more comprehensive. It's like speed reading in a way. Speed readers, they don't read sentence word by word, sentence by sentence. They read paragraphs or pages at a time. They take in a whole page of information at a time, not word by word, but and line by line, but page by page. So it's kind of like that. And we do it so naturally. And we don't get as fatigued because we're using all of our senses rather than just one or two. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm going to catch up with you guys in the chat. Okay, so Elise is saying, when Kennedy died, I was in biology class. All we did the rest of the day was watch TV. All stores closed and everyone was crying. Yeah. Yeah, it was like everybody froze in time, right? There was this huge pause. Yeah, they're saying it's like holding your breath. It was like holding your breath. Because in those moments, was he dead? Was he not dead? And all the, you watch the film reels, the replays, the video, that's archived, and you see how that how the shooting happened, and who was where, and how, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And Jolene says, I was born 11/22/63. I didn't grasp the magnitude of that day until 9/11. Yeah. I get you too. I understand that. Elise says, it was Todd Beamer that said, let's roll. Yeah, that's right. Elise, I was born in 1949, older than Dirt. I'm sorry, but Dirt's a lot older than 1949. Sorry. You're young compared to the Earth. The Earth is what, 65 billion years old or something like that? Thank you, Polly Joe, for sharing. Julie Hedges just joined us. Good morning, Julie. Yeah, and Julie is saying, howdy, I just getting here. We'll have to catch the rest in the archive. Yeah, good one. And Polly Joe says, I am the machine. Yes. Oh my gosh. And Julie saying, shared on the Tarot Journey page. Yay, thank you, Julie. I can do what that machine does. Exactly you can. One of my teachers, Drenvelo, he says something very similar, is that anything a machine can do, humans can do, and much simpler, because we already have the tools. Sometimes we use our allies, our friends, our relatives, meaning like the stone people, the crystals, those kinds of things, to ally, to help amplify, right? Yeah, but you can. She does. That's Polly Joe. And Julia is saying, Mega Netto has shared that we can hold on to 7 thoughts at a time, plus or minus 2. Yep. That's why when we're memorizing things, that we do it in groups of the 7. It's in the memorizing items, and to memorize in a way that is, what's that called? I'm having a menopausal moment. Yeah. Anyway, you create a way to be able to remember. And if you can put it to music or to song, you remember it even better, because it's a different part of your brain that's remembering it. That's why we can remember lyrics from songs that we learned when we were a kid, when we were teenagers. You hear the first few bars and you know what song it is, right? And you can usually sing the refrain or the chorus, right? Yeah, and put it into a lyric, and you can remember it even better. Yeah. And Polly Jo said, "What if my husband and I had a connected dream? I got during, and he got the after." Yeah. Um, so you guys were kind of traveling together, huh? Yeah. I would call that a dream time dream, not a sleep time dream. A sleep time dream are the ones that are kind of I can't really make heads or tails of them. They're kind of disjointed and um, they don't make sense. Those are the ones that are helping us to work through and work out um, our daily lives. Um, Sometimes when we're repressing or suppressing our emotions, they get played out in those dreams. Yeah. And then the dream time dreams, those are the ones that are filled with when our soul or spirit travels to different dimensions. And it's possible that you and your husband had traveled to the same place to experience the same thing. It would be more of a soul traveling than a sleep time dream. Kind of reminds me of the Field of Dreams. The part where he's supposed to go to Kevin Costner's character was supposed to go to a baseball game and take some famous writer with him, right? And he's trying to convince his wife that he needed to leave and go to New York to take this man to this game and to spend more money, the money they didn't have. And he starts telling her about the dream, and she says, "Is that the field that has the big lights?" And describes them. Were you sitting in row whatever and having a hot dog or something like that? They were in the exact same place and experiencing the exact same thing. It's kind of like that, isn't it, Polly Jo? Yeah, yeah. Mnemonic device. Thank you. It was like right here, and I couldn't draw it out. Mnemonic device. Yes, a mnemonic. It's like remembering the Great Lakes, homes, right? Homes. You create something like that, and you can remember the seven and probably more at a time. hmm But set it to music or to lyrics, and you could even remember more of it. All right. So the flip side of this card, it says, "Trust your intuitive wisdom. If your mind is closed, how can you learn anything new?" Now, I like the book. And I like the cards, but I don't agree with everything the way that Dr. Weiss states them, because you can tell that he's coming from the perspective of a medical trained person, an MD. I think it depends on how you bring in information. If you are clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, I think it depends on how you bring in information. When he says to trust your intuitive wisdom, that I agree with. If your mind is closed, how can you learn anything new? Chances are, those of us that are here, we have an open mind when it comes to intuition. That we know that there's possibilities. When we have a closed mind, chances are we're not really taking in all of the intuitive information that's available to us, because we're saying, "Oh, I don't believe that." We want to see proof, written proof. We want it to fit into the scientific method. We want it to be able to replicate it exactly, right? And so when I read, have a closed mind, I think that even those that may not have an open mind to certain spiritual aspects of things, sometimes those are the people who are shown the most dramatic way, such as UFOs. I know people who just want to see one so badly, want to see one so badly, and it's because they believe in them. They know they exist. And it's those people who don't believe that they exist. A lot of times, those are the people who see them. Why? Is because they're being shown. And yet, they even then they question it. It was my imagination. How do I know it's not my imagination? How do I know it's not just me telling myself that my mind is telling myself that? Yeah. We question ourselves, right? We question our intuition. We don't trust the information that we receive. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't discern. We should be discerning of information that we're given by all sources. So, and if you're getting information as an intuitive hit, is to ask questions. How does that work? Show me how that works. Why do I need to see this? What's important about this? To ask questions to your spiritual team and to start discerning, right? Yeah. Polly Joe says it's a tornado coming through. Yep. Mm-hmm. And Julia's saying, if your senses are dulled by high emotions or substances, we can't handle anything else at the time. Yeah, that's true. That's true. When we're in a, if we have, if we're experiencing a trauma, a car accident, a tornado, someone's death that's close to us, that we're in shock, deep grief. Yeah, you're right, Julie, that there's our emotions our intense, raw emotions can block information from coming through. It's kind of like we tighten up, right? We tighten up and we're hyper vigilant, sort of. And so, yeah, it's very hard to get information through, any information. That's why it's so important to have somebody with you when you're dealing with the police or dealing with medical people. When somebody gets their diagnosis from their doctor that they have cancer, right? That's shocking. That's shocking. Even though you might kind of suspect something, but when you get the words coming out of the doctor's mouth, we're in shock. And so we don't even hear half the stuff they tell us. And that's why it's so important to have somebody with you who can either take notes or record it or to help you through it, because you're getting so much information from so many different directions that you kind of shut down, right? Mm-hmm. And substances, you're right. It dulls them to a certain extent. To a certain extent, everything in moderation. I think of the Celtics and the old Irish. That they, yeah, the fairy folk love to party. And they love to have fun. They love the music. They love to dance. And so, and they love offerings of really good whiskey. Yeah. So, I think that it depends also on what culture you grow up in, right? What belief systems you have. Okay. Yeah. So, Polly Joe had said it's a tornado coming through. And Julie's asking Polly Joe, well, what tornado? Yeah, so you might want to Yeah, you might want to explain that one. I don't know. Is it a physical, like you're having thunderstorms and tornadoes in your area? Or is it because we're talking about when information comes through, spiritual information? Yeah. Yeah. And Julie's saying exactly, you tighten up and you close up. Right. Right. And some of that I think is almost like a self-defense survival kind of thing that we do because our mind can only take so much at one time, and so it kind of shuts down, right? We stop feeling, you know. Yeah. And I think we've all kind of experienced this one, is that you're kind of on information overload, and after a while you just kind of stare off into space and you're saying, huh, what? Because you stop taking in information in consciously. I say consciously because our body takes in information 24/7, 365, whether we're awake or asleep. We're taking in information all the time. We might not always realize that we're doing it because it's subconscious or unconsciously, but it's coming through. Hmm. That's why when you go through hypnosis and you're asked certain information, like license plates numbers. Um, Sometimes, when you're helping, you're a witness to something, and if you're under hypnosis, you can actually tell them what the person looked like, what you heard during that time frame. But in your conscious state, you don't remember any of it, right? Hmm. We take in so much information, and sometimes we don't even realize what we've taken in. Yeah. Julie's saying, when I was taken by ambulance in May, I shut down and wanted to be small, wanted to hide. Yeah, exactly. Polly Joe, yes, comes through the house, showed me only one way out. Michael was looking for temporary housing. Oh, I see. Well, you're talking about your dream. Okay, so for me, whenever I dream about a tornado, I'm dreaming about a situation or an event that's coming up that is going to have great change. The winds of change. That's what it means for me. And it depends on what direction it's going in. If it's going from left to right or right to left. Um, if it's crossing in front of me, how far away is it? Is it, if you're looking down a road, is it, you can see it coming, so it's a mile or miles away, but you can see it coming, or is it right in front of you? I've had one of those recently. Is it right in front of you? So for me, it's kind of like a time frame, that it's almost here, it's almost on us. And if your husband was looking for alternative housing, that means that it was already there, or temporary housing, right? Showed me only one way out. Yeah. Yeah. So, for dream interpretation, um, it could be changes that are coming up, big changes. If you have to change, if your house is not habitable, is it gone? Is it damaged to the point that you need someplace else to live until you can repair? Those kinds of things, right? Did you see anything in the tornado? Anything within the tornado itself? Because tornadoes pick up debris, right? Real tornadoes, they pick up debris, and you can see that in the churning of the tornado. And so in dreams, sometimes if you can look at the tornado, recall it, and see if there was anything within the tornado, that might give you an idea of the changes that are coming. Hmm. And how big was it? How big was it? Yeah. All right. Oh my goodness. I got to check the times. 10:45. We have another show coming up. Tuesdays are busy days at Star Nations. Polly Joe's show is coming up, Chakra Sessions, in 15 minutes. And I want to make sure I give you guys enough time to take a break and, run to the bathroom, grab another cup of coffee or cup of tea, and so that you're ready for Polly Joe's show. I think that the energy about today is really about how we receive information through our intuition, and that the more that we heal our emotional and mental traumas, that we can understand our intuitive hits more clearly, and realize how much information we really are taking in. Yeah. And trusting ourselves. That's a big one, is trusting the information that's being given to us, because it's there for a reason. And big lesson for me was to ask my spiritual team for assistance. Tell me about this. Why am I seeing this? Why is it important for me to know this? Can you share it with me with more clarity? Or for me, with the clairvoyant stuff, because it happens so quickly, please show that to me again. And can you do it just a little bit slower so I can actually see it? So you talk to your spiritual team, right? Right. All right. So anything that you've heard today, remember, if it resonated with you, yay, grab it, embrace it, and see and watch, sense how the energy unfolds for you today. And if it didn't resonate with you, that's great. That's all right. It wasn't for you. You can leave it alone. Let it lie. Or maybe you can be a messenger and share the recorded video with someone who might be looking for information. And you can be the messenger, right? Yeah. Thanks for being with me this morning for the live stream, and I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? No, tomorrow's Wednesday. Day ahead. I know. I'm so excited. We published the Star Nations magazine yesterday, and we got a day full of shows for you today, and it's fun. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for the card draw information at 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern, and Bama Mina. That means in Potawatomi, until we see each other again. Love you guys.